Moving on to Manchester City. Pete, could they actually accept an offer for John Stones this summer after his recent injury history? As great as he's really been unreliable for Manchester City over the last year or two.
Yeah, that's been the biggest issue with John Stones. If he's fit, I think he's one of the first names on Pep Guardiola's team sheet. I think he's that important to them. For me, he probably is their best centre back when fit, but that's been the biggest issue for Stones. He just hasn't been fit enough. Maybe over the last couple of seasons, he's only made 11 appearances in the Premier League this season, 20 in all competitions. Picked up that latest hamstring injury against Real Madrid last month when Manchester City, sorry, crashed out of the Champions League. So he's been a huge miss for City, and I think that's affected their form this season. Look, we know that City are going to continue their rebuild of the squad in the summer. There will be question marks over Stones due to his injury record and availability. He is 30 years old now and he turns 31 in May, so maybe his best days are behind him. I still think he's got a lot to offer, so I would be surprised if City were to let him go. They've had so many issues at centre back this season with injuries and everything else, but they're obviously planning major changes at centre back. They've already brought in Kushinov, Victor Reis, and they've also signed Juma Ba in the January window, loaning him out to loan. So that's three new centre backs who the club have invested in. So with those players arriving at the club, you've got to imagine that some players might have to leave, and due to Stones' contract situation, he is entering the final year of his contract at the Etihad. Maybe then this could be the right time for all parties to move on. John Stones moves on for a new challenge, and City can maybe get some money for him rather than risk allowing him to run down his contract. So yeah, there'll be a big decision to be made by City on Stones this summer, but I think he's been very unlucky with injuries, and for me, City are a better team when he's starting.
We see him sign another deal. I think he signs an extension, a year's extension. I think you look at the football now, 30-31 is nothing, and I think Manchester City, with the way they are, the players that they've recruited, Victor Reis, Kusanov, you look at Oscar Bob, you look at Rico Lewis, you look how young Vardiol as well. You look at those young players that will be slotting into that back four. They need somebody like John Stones around. They need a leader. They need somebody who's like a captain, a voice. The biggest thing is a leader and a voice in that back four, back three, whatever he plays. But actually, with those youngsters, John Stones at 31 signs an extension, takes him to 32, 33. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him sign in another year, and then we're having this conversation maybe at the end of next season, where so basically another year secures the club some kind of financial reward for him at the end of next season, doesn't allow him to go on a free, and actually they get him for another year where, when he's fit, he's still one of the best centre backs in England, as we've seen, for the national team and for Manchester City. But just because of the age of those players that I mentioned, I mean, Husanov's 20, Victor Reis 19, Oscar Bob, Rico Lewis, Guardiol's still on. It was Guardiol 21, I think.
Yeah.
You look how young that those players are. Having the likes of Ruben Dias and John Stones around, I think it's going to be key to their development as well.
And Paul, we know that the goalkeeper position has been a bit of an odd one. Even most recently, Ederson not called up to this Brazil national team squad, not in the best form. Man City are linked with Diogo Costa and Joan Garcia as new goalkeepers, potentially coming in this summer. Do you think they'll make a move for one of them, or does one of them catch your eye more than the other?
Well, listen, looking at the stats this season and looking at where they are, Diogo Costa, 13 clean sheets, only conceded 19 goals playing for Porto. And he's a top-class goalkeeper, and I think the way that Pep plays, he's very similar in the way that he wants to play out from the back with Ederson. Diego Costa is only 25 years old still, but I think the problem that they've got with him is his contract is till 2027. There is a release fee, like Pete said about these Portuguese club, minimum release of 75 million euros. They're not going to pay that for a goalkeeper. There's a lot of clubs around the world, they won't pay that for a goalkeeper. Manchester City's financial situation, we know they've gone in heavy and probably a lot heavier than they wanted to in January, because they didn't recruit in the summer. So somebody like Diogo Costa may be out of their reach, in all honesty, at that type of money. But with only a year left on his contract, then that minimum release clause it's not going to be met. There might be a deal to be done with a year left on his contract, but you're still talking in the region of 50-60 million euros. Don't know where Manchester City are at with it. He's clearly not happy with his goalkeepers, because Ederson hasn't been in great form. Ortega's not been in great form. He's rotated the two in and out of the side. There's a lot of talk that Ederson's going to go to the Saudi Pro League. There's a lot of clubs in the Saudi Pro League looking at goalkeepers. You look at the top of that league, you look at Etihad, you look at Al Hilal, Al Qadsiya, Al Nasser. Al Shabab, they're the ones that nearly tried to sign Dubravka in the January window. All of those clubs named the top 5 clubs in the Pro League could all do with strengthening in that department, in all honesty. But there's only a limited number of foreign players that they can have. It's 10. They can only have 10 in their squad. So actually what's happened this half of the... Well, I'm diverting off here, but the point I'm making is the gap is there for Ederson, but they can only have 10 in the side. Roberto Firmino, Al Ahly, they've not registered him for the league for the second part of the season. They brought 2 new players in, one Brazilian, and I can't remember the other one. They brought 2 new players in January. Firmino's not eligible to play in the league for Al Ahly for the rest of the season because of that rule, and he's the one that's been ousted. So yes, all the goalkeepers, bar one I think it is, they all tick the foreign national box for the Saudi Pro League. So that does mean that there could be a place for Ederson. Garcia, the other goalkeeper at Espanyol, he's of an age, 23 years old. I think that's more of a gettable target, if you like. He's contracted till 2028. His stats this season, he's only kept 4 clean sheets, but obviously playing in an inferior team in La Liga to what Costa's playing in Porto. These two are both very good young goalkeepers. They're at a great age as well, but both of them are going to cost Manchester City. But you've seen the importance of the goalkeeper's role this season, how they play from the back and how they're an integral part of the build-up play, if you like, and starting of the moves. Both of those goalkeepers we talked about could do that, and both potential targets for Manchester City. But I think Costa would be, as you say, the more costly version of the two.